Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to another Manchester United news roundup video where Man United have sold a stake in the club, and no, it's not to Sergio Ratcliffe. They have got investment in, but is it significant or not? I don't think it's particularly significant. We've got big updates coming in on Paul Mitchell being very close, but there is another sporting director being eyed up. We've got some news on the transfer ins, we've got some news on the transfer outs. United ready to cut ties with Casemiro as early as January. Are Man United disrespecting Casemiro? Only 3 months of poor form when they're ready to bin him off. But we've had players that have been poor for years that we still continue to play. Is Casemiro being scapegoated? We're going to discuss all of that in today's video, but please do hit that like button and of course subscribe down below if you're new. So let's get into this first story. It was said by Bloomberg, and they were the people that broke that Sergio Ratcliffe was on the verge of becoming the next Man United owner, and 2 days later Fabrizio Romano confirmed that Sheikh Yassim had pulled out the race. But it was said here by Bloomberg that breaking American billionaire Leon Cooperman has taken a stake in Manchester United. Billionaire and former hedge fund manager Leon Cooper has taken a late stake in Manchester United by purchasing just under 1 million shares, currently valued at 16.8 million. Now, these are Class 8 shares. He will have no voting power. He will have no sporting control. He's essentially just another greedy investor trying to profit off Man United, which is why I hate us being on the stock market, because people use us to trade shares and profit off us. And I'm not saying that he is bad for the club. I'm not saying that he can do anything that is bad for the club. He's just a businessman that said that Jim Ratcliffe's coming in, is going to invest a proper structure in Man United. And while the shares are particularly low, he's like, you know what? I want to buy a ton of shares because I believe that Sergio Ratcliffe is going to bring United to the top and the value is going to go right up. And I guess from what we're hearing about Sergio Ratcliffe, obviously a lot of it could be PR. He's not here yet. He is looking to bring in Paul Mitchell, invest a lot of money in transfers, and then that way, with United having the right structure, we should somewhat be back on track, and potentially, the better we are on the pitch, the more money that will be worth, and he can make profit off those stocks. You can look at it from that way. But I think the Swedish Rumble kind of summed up this whole story perfectly. He said this is a bit of a nothing story from the perspective of the Man United takeover, from what I can tell. Cooperman's Omega Advisors is a hedge fund that invests in shares, buying 80 million worth of specific shares. It's not a big investment for a hedge fund that managed 3.5 billion worth of shares. Good point here. Omega will side in as the 5th biggest Class A shareholder. When people are selling shares, others are buying them. So essentially, they're coming in as Class A shares. So Jim will obviously be buying the Class B shares. They are the Glazer shares. Doesn't really affect Sir Jim. Doesn't really affect the takeover. It's just another greedy investor kind of looking to get money in Man United. But a lot of people are talking about it and reacting to it like it's a big deal. It's not really. It's just a guy profiting off Man United. But it really doesn't change a lot, to be honest. Now, what could change a lot is Paul Mitchell. These were the stories that have come out just today on Paul Mitchell. Paul Mitchell wants Manchester United and Sergio Ratcliffe wants Paul Mitchell. Paul Mitchell was at the top of Manchester United's list to become their new sporting director. Paul Mitchell to Manchester United is hot. Dougie Freedman and Paul Mitchell are among early contenders to come in as Manchester United's director of football under Sergio Ratcliffe. Did you get that, guys? Paul Mitchell, Paul Mitchell, Paul Mitchell. We've known for ages, we've known since March that we were linked with Paul Mitchell and Sergio Ratcliffe. Sergio Ratcliffe had discussions with Paul Mitchell probably like February, March time. If he was successful, could he come in? Paul Mitchell has left Monaco because he wants to be closer to home. Paul Mitchell was from Manchester. Paul Mitchell wants the Manchester United job. He's keen on the Manchester United job. Jim wants Paul Mitchell. Jim's going to be given the sporting control very soon to change that. I'd be very surprised if Paul Mitchell wasn't at Manchester United. But he does have a little bit of competition in Dougie Freedman, but I think Paul Mitchell is the clear front runner. It's like when we were linked to Jordan Pickford, but we knew that we wanted Andre Onana. I think that's the situation with Paul Mitchell. He's the Andre Onana that we know that Ten Hag always wanted. Or will he be the Frankie de Jong and we end up with Dougie Freedman instead? Who knows? But I want to get into transfer news because obviously we're getting Paul Mitchell in to do the right transfers. Where Manchester United have gone wrong in the past, Julian Alvarez 17 million, Enzo Fernandez 12 million, Moises Caicedo 4 million, which funny enough, those two midfielders are being shown up by Conor Gallagher for Chelsea. Conor Gallagher's been fantastic for Chelsea, but you've got to look at so many deals that United missed out. Even people like Guardiola, Ragnick suggested when they were a lot cheaper. You've got to look at how many cheap young bargains United have missed out on their youth scouting development and their general recruitment, and the job that Paul Mitchell did at Spurs, Southampton, the RB clubs, and of course Monaco. And if we can have Paul Mitchell helping with transfers, that will be appreciated. But what transfers are United looking at? Manchester United are discussing a January move for Jean-Claude Todibo. The club want a new right-sided centre-back. We know from Romano that Todibo wants United. We know from very reliable sources that Todibo to United is seemingly likely. And we know from Romano that United want to sign a centre-back in 2024, maybe two, depending on the price, and if they sign one in January. And we know with Ratcliffe coming in, these connections, and the fact that if we sold Maguire, we would have brought in Todibo, that Todibo to United is probably the favourite for centre-back. And Inacio looks like the second favourite because I think we want a right centre-back then a left centre-back. But Antonio Silva is also there as an option, and Jared Bramthwaite of Everton. We're also looking at people like Tapsoba, Dion Monde, but they aren't as credible. I'm a big fan of Todibo. The fact that they're saying that United are discussing whether to bring Todibo or not to the club in January is a real possibility. The question mark is, with Nice potentially in a title race, will they sell? I guess Ratcliffe owns that. We'll have to see. I think that Manchester United have got a good chance of signing Todibo, but we might have to wait until the summer. Now, do I think United are going to spend money in January? I'd be surprised because I know the Glazers. I know that we don't like to spend in January, but there are rumours that Ratcliffe's going to come in and flush a big bit of cash. But it was said that Manchester United and Tottenham have joined Liverpool and Arsenal in the race to sign Fluminense midfielder Andre, who will move clubs in January. Fluminense are willing to accept 30 million. United, Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool, Fulham, many clubs are in for Fluminense midfielder Andre. When many clubs are in for the same midfielder and it's a January move and United are prioritising right-wing striker and centre-back before midfielder in January, do I think United are going to get Andre? No. Do I want Manchester United to get Andre? Yes. Do I think it's possible? Yes. But because of competition, other good clubs in for him, I'm not sure. However, there are rumours that Liverpool aren't going to spend in January now, so we'll have to look at that. But it was said that United's potential move for Andre is reliant upon the future of Casemiro has been linked with a 2024 move to Saudi Arabia. United had drawn up a list of possible replacements. Andre is among those names. So they're saying Manchester United's potential chances of bringing in Andre could depend on Casemiro's future. Now, we're going to talk about Casemiro and if he's been too disrespected. And I don't think Andre's really a Casemiro replacement because I don't think Andre's got those defensive qualities that Casemiro has. I don't think Andre can play as a lone six. But Andre does have everything that Casemiro is missing in possession. Andre's so good on the ball, so press resistant, complete volume passer, makes loads and loads of passes, is very good in build-up, is very good at progressing the ball. Similar-ish profile to Frankie de Jong, but not that similar-ish, if you get what I'm saying. And I think there's every reason why Ten Hag would want Andre. We've got a lot of problems in build-up. Does he work with Mainoo? Yes, but would someone like with a bit more height and physicality work better if we're having 5'9" centre-back in Sandro Martinez? Potentially. But I really want us to sign Andre, but we have to keep an eye on that. Nearer January, I think we'll know if we're going to do business or not. Once the takeover is ratified, once we know the budget, once we know injury situation, even if players are getting sold sort of early January, I think early January we'll have an indication of what's going to happen. But we know that United would like to get rid of some players. It's actually been said that Anthony, Sancho, Anthony Martial, Casemiro and Varane, all players that United wouldn't mind getting out the door in January. And they're basically all of our biggest earners, apart from Rashford in there. And we know that, Casemiro has now recently been linked with a move amid his injury and with his drop in form. Alex Crook said this. He said Manchester United will consider cashing in on Casemiro. He is being targeted for a big money move to Saudi Arabia. Sergeant Ratcliffe is believed to be open to offers for Casemiro to help fund United's rebuild. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Is Casemiro becoming the new Manchester United scapegoat? Now, I understand that Casemiro has been poor, he's dropped off in form, and if there's a brilliant replacement there in January that's young, that United can afford to replace Casemiro, I'm for it. But I think you've got to remember that everyone's been poor this season, not just Casemiro. And is Casemiro becoming a scapegoat? Are United trying to clear out those big name players with Varane, Casemiro linked to Saudi, Sancho going, De Gea gone, Ronaldo gone, they want Martial gone? I think the United are trying to get rid of big wage players. Now, talking of big wage players, and we are going to get back into the Casemiro news in just a second, I want to touch upon the news on Sancho, because this was said by Chris Wheeler and Sami Motbel, who are really credible sources. They said that Juventus are ready to offer Jadon Sancho an escape route from Manchester United in January. Representatives from Juventus were in the UK last week and made contact with United over a possible loan move for Sancho. Borussia Dortmund are also considering a move to bring Sancho back. Saudi Arabia is another possibility in January and next summer, although Sancho would prefer to stay in Europe at this stage of his career if possible. Sancho is desperate to leave United. Worst case scenario, he probably would go to Saudi Arabia, but he wants to stay in Europe. The problem is that Juventus are like, we'll bring him in and we'll pay 30% of his wages. No, if you loan Sancho, you pay his wages. But unfortunately, because of Sancho's acting out, because we're not going to play Sancho anyway, United don't really have a foot to stand on with this Sancho situation. Sancho needs to go. Big clear out needs to happen in the summer, and we need to replace them well. But that brings me into the final topic of my video. Lots of reports that Man United are going to sell Casemiro and move on Casemiro. But is Casemiro getting too much disrespect? Should we be selling Casemiro as early as January? Or should we be looking at him thinking he can change the season around? Because I've said, look, Casemiro's had a poor start, but most players have had a poor start and dropped off as well. It's not that Casemiro's just been poor. Amrabat's done the Casemiro role and hasn't stepped up and looked better than Casemiro. It could be the role of the mismanagement by Ten Hag in that role. He was an absolute rock for us last season. He was the core to our success. And when he got red card, we weren't the same since. And so many players have been poor, but it's Casemiro we're sacking off for 3 months poor form first when we've had players that have been poor for months and months and months and years. Now, I'm saying, look, Casemiro is old. He's getting on a bit. He's not going to get better. If there's a brilliant, perfect young replacement available that we will buy if we sell Casemiro, sell Casemiro. But I think that he's almost becoming this scapegoat. I think that he can get back into his form. I think he's a good player. I still think there's a player in Casemiro. I don't think he's washed. I don't think he's finished yet. I just think that Man United have been poor, that it's brung him down. I'm open to selling him if there's the right replacement available, if it means we can bring in someone proper in January. But there's at least 10 players I'd sell before Casemiro at United. I think are bigger problems that almost just don't get seen as much as Casemiro. Yes, Casemiro's been poor. Yes, Casemiro hasn't been good. But it does feel like he's becoming the new scapegoat. I don't think he's an Eric Ten Hag player, Casemiro, but he was one of our best players last season. While he's been poor this season, so has everyone. Is he becoming the new scapegoat? Let me know your thoughts. Anyway, please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.